Hi all. Let us discuss about next portion of the module 1. So in previous videos we had already discussed the introduction of cryptography. What do you mean by a symmetric cipher? What are the substitution techniques, transposition techniques, rotor machines and steganography. Now we can study about what are the block cipher principles. So there are actually two block cipher principles. One is a stream cipher and another one is a block cipher. Okay. So what do you mean by stream cipher and what do you mean by block cipher? What is actually ciphering or encipherment? We can convert the original data into some another form. Okay, that is actually ciphering or enciphering. So there are two methods for ciphering. One is we can use the principle as stream ciphering method and another one is block ciphering. Then what is stream cipher and what is block cipher? So stream cipher, we can encrypt the original data one bit at a time or one byte at a time. But the block cipher means we can take the plain text and divide it into number of blocks and we can encrypt block by block. That means we can take one block, then produce one block of ciphertext. Okay, we can take another block of plain text and then convert it into next block of ciphertext. That is actually block cipher. So there are two basic principal block ciphering method. One is a stream cipher and another one is a block cipher. So stream cipher means bit by bit encryption or byte by byte encryption. 8 bit at a time. Okay. But in the case of block cipher, second method, we divide the plain text into number of, or we grouped the plain text bits into number of blocks. They take first block, then produce first block of ciphertext, then take next block of plain text, then produce next block of ciphertext. Clear? And the examples of stream cipher are Vernam cipher and Vignere cipher. Generally, the block cipher, in block cipher method, block size is 64 or 128 bits. And in the case of block cipher, most algorithms are based on the Fiscal structure. Fiscal structure is nothing but it's a structure or it's a structure of encryption or decryption that is proposed by Fiscal. Clear? So there are two types of block ciphering mechanism. One is a stream cipher, that means bit by bit encryption or byte by byte encryption. Another one is block ciphering, that means block by block ciphering. So general block size is 64 or 128. So most this block ciphering algorithm is based on the structure Fiscal structure. So what is actually this Fiscal structure? Fiscal structure, it's a structure of encryption or decryption proposed by Fiscal, the scientist Fiscal. Clear? So here in the Fiscal structure, we can take plain text and group them into blocks. So each block contain some n bit. So it's an n bit block ciphering mechanism, and we can take n bit block as first input, then produce n bit block, n bit block of cipher. So here 2 raised to n possible transformations are there. Also, this Fiscal structure of cryptography is a reversible mechanism. That means decryption is possible. Here each plain text must have a unique ciphertext. Clear? So There are reversible mapping as well as irreversible mapping. Irreversible mapping means there is no decryption procedure, but in the case of reversible mapping, there is a decryption procedure. That means each plain text block have a unique ciphertext. You can see in this first figure, we have a plain text and we have ciphertext. That is a one-by-one relationship between the plain text and ciphertext. That is, for each plain text, there is a unique ciphertext. But in the case of second mapping, that is irreversible, you can see that two plain texts have the same ciphertext. 10 and 11 have same ciphertext 01, right? So it's an irreversible mapping, or it's a decryption is somewhat complex. Clear? So decryption, it can't be reversed. Clear? So that is reversible mapping as well and irreversible mapping. So Fiscal structure is actually based on reversible mapping. If there is an encryption, there must be a decryption. Clear? So Fiscal structure, we can use n-bit block length as well as key-bit key length. Why we are using key in cryptography? So based on that key, plain text is encrypted to ciphertext. So in the Fiscal structure, input has n-bit block length and key is a k-bit. Also we can use substitution and permutations, or transpositions or permutations mechanism in Fiscal structure. Also applies a new concept, that is diffusion and confusion. So what is the approaches? What are the approaches that is used in Fiscal structures? N-bit block length is used, k-bit key length is used. We can apply substitution and permutations or transpositions. Also we can apply the concept of diffusion and confusion. Clear? So Fiscal structure approaches, first we take the plain text, then divide into two halves. One is a left half and another one is right half. Then we can take next input, that is key, right? There are two inputs to the encryption algorithm. One is a plain text and another one is a key. So first take the plain text, divide them into two, left half and right half. Second, take key, then generate sub keys from the original key. Clear? These sub keys are known as round keys. That means each key is used for a round. And we can use a round function f. That function is only applied to the right half of the plain text. Clear? Next we can apply substitution on the left half with XOR. Also we can apply permutation. That means some switching of two halves or interchange of two halves. So actually this Fiscal structure implements SP Shannon networks or SP net concept. So നമ്മൾ പഠിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് ബ്ലോക്ക് സിഫർ പ്രിൻസിപ്പിൾസ് ആണ്. സ്ട്രീം സൈഫറും ബ്ലോക്ക് സിഫറും ആണ് രണ്ട് മെക്കാനിസം. അതിൽ സ്ട്രീം സിഫർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ബിറ്റ് ബൈ ബിറ്റ് ട്രാൻസ്ഫോർമേഷൻ ആണ്. ബ്ലോക്ക് സിഫർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ബ്ലോക്ക് ബൈ ബ്ലോക്ക് ട്രാൻസ്ഫോർമേഷൻ ആണ്. സോ ഈ ബ്ലോക്ക് സിഫർ മെക്കാനിസം മെയിൻലി ബേസ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത് ഒരു Fiscal സ്ട്രക്ചർ ക്രിപ്റ്റോഗ്രഫിയാണ് ബേസ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ എന്താണ് ഈ Fiscal സ്ട്രക്ചർ ക്രിപ്റ്റോഗ്രഫി ഓർ Fiscal സ്ട്രക്ചർ എൻക്രിപ്ഷൻ ബാർ ഡിക്രിപ്ഷൻ? Fiscal എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സയൻറ്റിസ്റ്റ് പ്രപ്പോസ് ചെയ്തതാണ് Fiscal സ്ട്രക്ചർ. സോ ഈ Fiscal സ്ട്രക്ചറിന് ഇൻപുട്ടായിട്ട് യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് ഒരു n-bit ബ്ലോക്ക് സൈസ് ഉള്ള പ്ലെയിൻ ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ആണ്. അതുപോലെ കീ യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് k-bit സൈസ് ഉള്ള ഒരു കീ ആണ്. അതുപോലെ ഇവിടെ യൂസ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന ഈ Fiscal സ്ട്രക്ചറിൽ സബ്സ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനും യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നു, പെർമ്യൂട്ടേഷനും യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. അതുപോലെ വേറെ രണ്ട് കോൺസെപ്റ്റായ ഡിഫ്യൂഷനും കൺഫ്യൂഷനും അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പോൾ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഈ Fiscal സ്ട്രക്ചർ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത്? ഫസ്റ്റ് നമ്മൾ എന്തെടുക്കുന്നു? ഒരു ഇൻപുട്ടായിട്ട് പ്ലെയിൻ ടെക്സ്റ്റ് എടുത്ത് അതിനെ രണ്ട് ഹാഫായിട്ട് ഡിവൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. ലെഫ്റ്റ് ഹാഫ് ആൻഡ് റൈറ്റ് ഹാഫ് ആക്കി ഡിവൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഇനി നമ്മളൊരു കീ എടുക്കുന്നു. ആ കീയിൽ നമ്മൾ ആ ഒറിജിനൽ കീയിൽ നമ്മൾ സബ് കീസ് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നു. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്കതിനെ വേറൊരു പേരിൽ അറിയപ്പെടാം, റൗണ്ട് കീസ് എന്ന് അറിയപ്പെടാം. അതായത് ഓരോ റൗണ്ടിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടും യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന കീ എന്നാണ് അത് അർത്ഥമാക്കുന്നത്. ക്ലിയർ? സോ നമുക്ക് ഒറിജിനൽ പ്ലെയിൻ ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ഉണ്ട്, അതിന് 2 ഹാഫ് ആക്കി, ലെഫ്റ്റ് ഹാഫ് ആൻഡ് റൈറ്റ് ഹാഫ്. അതുപോലെ നമുക്ക് കീ എടുത്തു, അതിൽ നിന്ന് നമ്മൾ കുറേ സബ് കീസ് ഉണ്ടാക്കി, അതാണ് റൗണ്ട് കീസ് എന്നറിയപ്പെടുന്നത്. ഇനി മൂന്നാമത്തെ അപ്രോച്ച് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മൂന്നാമത്തെ സ്റ്റെപ്പ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, നമ്മളൊരു റൗണ്ട് ഫംഗ്ഷൻ യൂസ് ചെയ്യുക. റൗണ്ട് ഫംഗ്ഷൻ എപ്പോഴും അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത് റൈറ്റ് ഹാഫിനാണ്. ഇനി അടുത്തത് നമ്മളൊരു സബ്സ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ പ്രൊസീജിയർ അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യണം. അത് ലെഫ്റ്റ് ഹാഫിനാണ് അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്. പ്ലസ് ഒരു എക്സോർ ഫംഗ്ഷനും കൂടി അവിടെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യണം. പിന്നെ നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത് ലാസ്റ്റ് സ്റ്റേജ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇത് ഇന്റർചേഞ്ചിങ് ഓഫ് ഹാഫ്സ് ആണ്. സ്വാപ്പ് ചെയ്യുക അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സ്വിച്ച് ചെയ്യുകയാണ്. 2 ഹാഫിനെയും സ്വാപ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു മെക്കാനിസം ആണ് ലാസ്റ്റ് പെർമ്യൂട്ടേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. So this is the approach that is used in a Fiscal structure. Clear? And you can see that in a figure. Before that we are going to discuss what we mean by the concept of diffusion and confusion in Fiscal structure. Diffusion means it is actually based on the statistical relationship between the plain text and the cipher text. So here we are using a permutation concept. Clear? That is diffusion. Diffusion means it's a statistical nature of plain text is reduced to cipher text. That means it is the statistical relationship between the plain text as well as cipher text. But in the case of confusion means here we are making a relationship between cipher text and a key. Right? It is as much as complex as possible. So even if the attacker finds some statistical characteristics of cipher with plain text, but hard to find the key. So here complex substitution procedures are applying for getting confusion concept. Clear? So Fiscal structure. In Fiscal structure, we can apply we have substitution and permutations along with the 2 other concepts. One is diffusion and another one is confusion. Diffusion means making some relationship between cipher and plain text. But in the case of confusions means making some relationship between cipher text and key. Okay. So these are the 2 concepts that is applied in Fiscal structure. Next we can see the structure of Fiscal. So first we have encryption. Fiscal structure is reversible. That means if we have an encryption, it can be reversed. That means we have a decryption procedure. So first figure you can see the plain text is converted into cipher text. So first we have so here how many rounds are there? 16 rounds are there, and for each round we are using some key. Key is represented as K, K1, K2 up to K16, right? So we have a plain text as input, then divide them into 2 halves, LE0 and RE0. What is LE0? Left half, and what is right half? RE0. So first we take the input as plain text, then divide into 2 halves. Clear? Then take a key K and generate some round keys. How many rounds are there? 16 rounds. So how many sub keys are possible? 16 sub keys are or round keys are possible from K1 to K16. Clear? Then second approach is third step is use a round function. What is the round function? F. Here in this figure F represents the round function. Okay. So round function is applied on the right half, right? Along with key, K1, round key. Then produce an output, okay? That output is XOR with. There is a plus symbol in the figure, that is the XOR operation. So after performing round function on the right half, we get an output. Then apply an XOR function along with left half. Then produce an output. Last step is interchanging the right and left half. So right half is changed to left half in next round. Then output of the XOR is the right half of the next round. Clear? And this process is continued up to 16th round. After 16th round, you can see a swapping of left half and right half. That is L17 and R17 is getting by swapping L16 and R16. Clear? So this is the encryption procedure in a Fiscal structure. And what is the decryption procedure in a Fiscal structure? Reversible of this encryption. That means we have 16 rounds, we have 16 subkeys K1 to K16, but the process is reversed. So we have the input as ciphertext, right? Then divide that ciphertext into two halves, left and right. Apply round function to the right half, then get an output. Then that output is XOR with the left half. Then change or swap left and right half. At the end, after 16th round, we have a swapping of left half and right half, or interchanging of left and right half to produce L17 and R17 to make a plain text. So this is the structure of Fiscal cipher. Clear? So here all rounds have the same structure. Here a substitution is performed on the left half of the data. Apply a round function f to the right half, then taking exclusive OR. So each round has a subkey that is represented as ki, and following this substitution there is a permutation or interchanging of the two halves. So this structure is actually based on substitution permutation network that is actually proposed by Shannon. Clear? This is the Fiscal structure. So based on this Fiscal structure, we can implement a simplified DES. What is DES? Data encryption standard, or data encryption method, or data encryption standard algorithm. It's a simplified version is simplified DES algorithm. So in the case of simplified DES, input plain text size is 8-bit and the output ciphertext block is 8-bit, but we can use key as 10-bit. Clear? So first encryption algorithm, that is simplified DES, we can study. The input block as 8 bits, output block as 8 bits, but the key size is 10 bits. Here there are two rounds are used. Already Fiscal structure is explained that we have 16 rounds, but in the simplified DES mechanism we have two rounds. So round keys are generated using permutations and left shift. Here in encryption process we have an initial permutation, round function, switch halves, etc. In decryption, same as encryption, but it is in a reversible or opposite order. Clear? So how to represent the simplified DES? So this is the structure of simplified DES algorithm. So first you can see encryption. We can take 8-bit plain text. First we have to permute that plain text. What is actually permutation? Permutation means it's transposition. What is transposition? Rearranging of bits. So first we can apply IP, initial permutation. So the order of initial permutation is already seen in the figure, left half of the figure, that is IP is equal to 263148557. That is the order of transposition. We have 8-bit. So first bit is at the 4th position, second bit is the first position, third bit is the third place itself. So that is the order, transposition or permutation order, that is the initial permutation. Then we have a round function fk based on k1. K1 is the key, sub key. Then we have a switch function or swap function as w. Next we have also a round function, that is the second round. Next last step is inverse permutation. We can see in figure inverse permutation, IP inverse is equal to 413572886. So that is the order of transposition. So in the encryption procedure we have an 8-bit plain text along with the two keys. Why two keys are here in a simplified DS? Because simplified DS contains two rounds. Okay. Sorry. That is why we are using K1 and K2 for the two rounds. So first round consists of initial permutation and a round function Fk with the help of K1. Then swapping. Next. Second round is second round function and inverse permutation, IP inverse. Clear? So in decryption, it is the reverse process of encryption. You can see input as 8-bit ciphertext. So first inverse of IP inverse is IP itself, then FK, switch function, then FK. Last step is inverse of IP in encryption is IP inverse. Then generate 8-bit plain text. Clear? This is the decryption procedure. Then how the subkeys are generated from the original key? That is actually represented in the middle figure. That is, we have a 10-bit key. So first we permute that 10-bit key, P10. Then a left shift is applied. Shift represents a left shift. Then after shifting, we next third step is we have a permutation with 8-bit. That is P8. Then produce K1. That is the first round key. And the second round key is produced by using 10-bit key after performing P10 permutation and shifting. First left shift. Again, we performing another left shift. Then performing a permutation with respect to 8-bit, produce a K2, second round key. Clear? This is the structure of simplified DES scheme. So this is the detailed figure of key generation in simplified DES. We have a 10-bit key. First performing P10. P10 is already defined here in this figure. 352, 74, 10, 1, 9, 8, 6. Next we can perform a left shift. So divide that P10 permuted output into two halves and then apply LS1, left shift 1. Then combine that output and then permute. Then performing a permutation with respect to 8 bits and then produce an 8-bit key, that is K1, first round key. Then after performing first left shift, again we can performing a second left shift, LS2, then performing a P8 permutation, producing an 8-bit key, that is K2. So we have a 10-bit key, but the subkey size is 8-bit. Why? First we are performing permutation with respect to 10 bits. But after shifting, what we have to do is, we have to perform a P8 permutation. That means permutation with respect to 8 bit. So we can produce an 8-bit key. So the original key size is 10 bit, but the size of the subkeys or round keys are 8 bit in SDES mechanism. Clear? And this is the encryption, detailed description of encryption. That is, we have an 8-bit plain text. First we are performing IP, initial permutation. Then we can perform a round function. After round functions we have SW. SW is a switching or interchanging of two halves. Then we can next round. So the rounds are same. After round 2, we have IP inverse permutation, then produce an 8-bit ciphertext. So IP stands for initial permutation and IP inverse stands for represents inverse permutation. And in the case of round functions, we have a function E bar P, expansion bar permutation. So first we take the 8-bit plain text, then performing an initial permutation, then divide into two halves. 4 each. Then right half, we can apply a round function. So round function consists of E bar P, that is expansion bar permutation function, then XOR. Then we can use two switch boxes here, that is S0 and S1 for shifting procedure. Then after combining this output, we can apply a P4 permutation with respect to 4-bit, then produce an output as 4-bit. Then after getting this 4-bit output, we can XOR that 4-bit with the left half, then produce a 4-bit output. Then we can interchange the right and left half, that is represented by SW. Okay, after swapping, we can perform the same round as previous one, that is a second round. After getting second round output, we have a left half and we have a right half. Then perform IP inverse to produce 8-bit ciphertext. So what is actually S0 and S1 here? It is actually a matrix representation for permutation or for shifting, that is S0 and S1 switch boxes. Clear? So this is a simplified DES encryption in detailed way. So SDES and DES perform substitution using S boxes. S box is considered as a matrix, that is input used to select row or column. Selected element is the output. Clear? So in this video, we had discussed about the block cipher principle, that is stream cipher and block cipher. And the block cipher algorithms are based on Fiscal structure. What is its Fiscal structure? And first algorithm is simplified DES, how it works. Clear? Thank you.